This week, we play and review Sundered while discussing gaming news. Bioware's Monkey's Paw continues to ravage them. Nintendo promises SNES Classic pre-orders. No, for real this time, guys. Not wanting too much adoration, Shadow of Mordor developer takes a huge microtransaction dump on their own game. And sometimes, Titanfalls come in small packages. And more. It's Game Club Reviews with News. Lots of Mass Effect Andromeda studio news, all kinds of stuff. Let's start with the one good piece of news, I suppose. Mass Effect Andromeda had a 1.10 update drop this week, mostly for multiplayer.
Is that nothing new for the campaign players?
Yeah, no, there's never anything ever coming for the campaign players. Just to make sure we're not ambiguous here, you are never playing any more campaign ever of Andromeda. You heard it here first, folks. And then also from the rest of the world.
Which kind of leads into the second story about Andromeda.
Yeah, the second story is the Mass Effect Andromeda, the studio, not all of Bioware, but Bioware Montreal have been absorbed into EA Motive. Chris, who's EA Motive?
I have no idea.
Neither do I, so that's pretty bad news, I think.
But they didn't get fired? Like everyone didn't get fired? Or do you think they just downsized and rearranged some people?
Well, I think there was already a big round of cuts, and then the people that were left then were absorbed.
I mean, I'm sympathetic to people losing their jobs. I don't want to revel in anybody else's pain.
Yeah. I think you're right that you can't revel in it because ultimately most of the people who are on the ground of that development stuff, they were just doing their basic jobs. Make that door look good.
Yeah.
Make a mountain for us. Make sure, gameplay features work. You really have to blame the people who are overseeing it and creating the overall game, who are envisioning it and putting the pieces together.
Yeah, Andromeda's problem was its generals, not its foot soldiers.
Right. Because when you look at it from when you put the microscope on it, there's the small things are great.
Yeah.
Great graphics.
The movement? Yeah.
Shooting.
I always feel like movement's the one thing you have to get right. And if you get it right, it can really save an otherwise not great game.
Yeah.
But if you have great controls, great movement, if it feels good to play, people will forgive a lot of other things.
Moving on, but still sticking to Mass Effect news or Mass Effect related news. A couple of deaths actually kind of hit these studios. First of all, the lead designer for Anthem, Corey Gasper, has passed away. I don't know the person. I can only judge him by his work, frankly, or come to understand him by his work. And Anthem was looking sweet, wasn't it, Chris?
Yes.
It's real sad that somebody who is obviously putting something really great together for the fans of that company.
It's sad when a talented person
passes away, and especially passes away before he could see the fruition, see the product hit, and see how it does.
Of his work.
Yeah. So, I think our hearts and our thoughts go to the family of Mr. Gasper. We also had... Well, Chris, did you ever play Shadow of Mordor?
No, I didn't. I missed that one.
Yeah, that was a really good one. The brawling was okay. Pretty good. The open world was colorful in its own strange way. Nicely designed. A lot of NPCs on the map at once. You're mostly surrounded by orcs or whatever they're called in that universe. And you played as... basically the reincarnation, not sure, in a very literal sense, reincarnated, re-embodied victim of the war with Mordor, and you want to get revenge for the death of your family. Part of the game design was in the story, if you die, you can't actually be killed. You'll just return as a ghost to one of the places where you can be reincarnated.
Okay.
Which meant deaths would have effect, but it's not permanence, which meant the story can continue. And that meant that there's this thing called the Nemesis System where, let's say some orc killed you, you would get reincarnated somewhere, but that orc would get promoted in his ranks.
Right. I remember this being a big deal when it came out.
Yeah, and get buffs. And then when you ran into him again, he would remember you and talk trash and be show off his new armor. And if he killed you again, good luck. He's going to get such a great upgrade later. And it was just this really cool kind of continuing story that this Nemesis system allowed for. And so Shadow of War, some people are calling it Shadow of Mordor, is coming out soon. And they're capitalizing on the Nemesis system, that there's going to be both a negative and a positive. So everything you remember from the negative, but a positive Nemesis system in which you are building your own ranks
right,
and building up your own people and building an army, and you're waging your own war. But after all this great news, they just announced this week that the Nemesis system will feature microtransactions. Microtransactions.
Not the Dirty Jobs guy?
No. How do you feel about microtransactions, Chris?
I hate them. I hate them with a passion.
Yeah, I mean...
Come on, you got $60 out of me already. Now you got nickel and dime me for every sword and piece of armor I want.
Yeah, I got to give them one little break. I do hate them too. One little break is that this is the kind of microtransactions where you don't have to do it. Like it.
Yeah, you never have to.
Yeah, but you're gonna. So the way it works for this is players can purchase loot chests, war chests, XP boosts, and bundles through the market to strengthen their army.
I can purchase another game that doesn't have microtransactions.
Let me tell you what I really hate, and this is something this game is doing. I hate it when the microtransactions isn't for the item you want, but for a chest where you might get the item you want.
Yeah, that's the worst.
It won't stop me from buying and playing the game, but this is one of those things that gamers, and I'm putting myself in this category right now, gamers are really bad at voting with their wallet.
Yeah, because we still buy it.
Yeah, what I should do is completely protest this game and not buy it.
Right.
So the developer will learn its lesson.
But you won't, and they won't.
I'm totally going to buy it. 100%.
And the cycle continues.
Yeah. Moving on. We have, getting some news here from GameSpot. New game from one of Borderlands publishers' biggest franchises still due out by early 2019. So the report here is Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick stated, quote, a highly anticipated new title from one of 2K's biggest franchises, unquote, is due out in fiscal 2019.
Wow.
2K is a great company. They don't have a lot of games that you could consider like highly anticipated. Obviously, GTA is technically a 2K game because they're the publisher and what's-her-face, Rockstar is the developer. We know it's not going to be another GTA. We also know it's not going to be Red Dead because that's due out in 2018.
Right.
So we've taken Bioware. We've taken Rockstar off the table.
So what's left?
Right, Gearbox, essentially, because there's not a whole lot... it's not...
Ooh, new Aliens game. That'll be great.
Yeah. I hope that's not the case. And then when you talk about Gearbox, it's going to be Aliens, or it's going to be possibly the new, the eventually new Duke Nukem. Eventually the next Duke Nukem. I'm actually kind of excited for whenever that comes out. Whatever it is, I feel like Gearbox could make a really good Duke Nukem. Hopefully they do. Anyway, that's my personal...
I felt like they could make a really good Aliens game, but here we are.
Yeah. And then that leaves us with, if you take that all off the table, Borderlands. There was Borderlands 3.
Maybe it's Half-Life 3.
By Gearbox. But the CEO, his name is escaping me, of Gearbox, he already revealed they were making Borderlands 3 because he showed off the game engine for it. But no footage whatsoever that's probably in-game. It was just like showing like some desert region and some random character walking around who didn't look like she was going to be really like one of the playable characters. But we know Borderlands 3 is being made, so this could be confirmation that it's a 2019 game. A little bit far off for me. I was really hoping for an early 2018, but, I guess as long as it's coming. So SNES Classic pre-orders are, according to Nintendo, going to be available this month of August. So everybody be waiting. All right, if you can get these pre-orders, pretty sure they won't be canceled this time. Pretty sure.
Maybe.
Pretty sure. So, switching over to Respawn. First, let's talk about Respawn has said that they still are heavily invested in Titanfall universe, and there's going to be more on the way.
Sweet.
Yeah, so you played a lot of Titanfall 2.
I have played a lot of Titanfall 2.
Now that you've played so much and you can reflect upon it and also what the offering has been since it was released, what's your take on Titanfall 2?
I absolutely love it.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly why I love it so much. I play it for hours and hours.
Okay, well, good news for people like you, Chris. Apparently they're still invested. That they have not mentioned that there's going to be a Titanfall 3. Do you think there will be?
I don't know.
I read the one of the developers of Titanfall say in an interview that it was a very successful game, but they believed it should have been more successful than it was.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this, wow, a while ago. Now,
Yeah.
it didn't quite sell as well as they were hoping it would.
It was sandwiched between the next, was it Battlefield and Call of Duty at the
Yeah.
time? That was dumb. I mean, way to put a game out to die.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
It's like if they had saved that for the spring.
I like
would've
it better
killed
than
it.
Battlefield 1. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with me on that, but
Yeah.
I do. I love how fast it moves.
Yeah, but even if you crush Battlefield and the next Call of Duty in quality, you're still not going to outpace them.
No.
Like,
The fan base is too big.
Yeah, it's too big, and those are the fans you need to win over to have a big selling
Right, because
FPS.
that's your genre.
Yeah,
They maybe should have done a spring release.
yeah. I bet it would have sold double
Yeah.
if they had put it in the spring.
That'd be pretty nice to get a Titanfall in the spring and a Battlefield in the fall.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Man, that'd be a nice year.
Also on the Titanfall front, I guess there's a spin-off coming out for mobile. It's called Titanfall Assault, and it's going to focus on a real-time strategy sort of approach to things. I'm going to read what GameSpot says here in their little article. Instead of Titanfall's iconic fast-paced first-player and mech suit combat, Titanfall Assault is taking a much different route. Players will take on the role of a commander leading their crews to capture enemy territories. By collecting burn cards and upgrading resources, players will travel across known Titanfall locations and might bump into some familiar faces along the way too. So, is this the mobile game that might attract you?
Yeah, we're going to give it a shot here on Game Club. I'll be playing it when it comes out, and we'll see what's what.
Okay, well, with the news set aside, we're going to now switch to our review of Sundered. Okay, so we played Sundered this week. Chris, what'd you think?
This is really an incredible game, isn't it?
Yeah, I really liked it. We didn't know at first that it was hand-drawn animation, but we immediately saw that it was very high-quality animation. Beautiful to look at.
I feel like there are a couple kinds of really good games. There are games that come along and bring us something new that we haven't seen before, or and then there are games that take old ideas and polish them to new levels.
Yeah, and honestly, that's usually the better way of doing things, right?
Right, you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right, just need to have fun.
Yeah, there's nothing new about 2D platforming, but this game does it so well.
Yeah, it definitely like mixes some roguelike with Metroidvania,
Mhm.
and dumps on top of that amazing, beautifully animated animation. And sometimes when things are hand animated, the movement's not as good, I find, but not in this case. The movement, the jumping are on point, feels good. I kept on saying, man, I wish there was a Batman game that played the way this moved.
It's such a make or break thing
Yeah.
for platformers. There's nothing worse than a platformer with bad controls.
Yeah, absolutely. We forgot to mention this is developed by Thunder Lotus Games. Sick name for a company. They also developed Jotun, if anybody's familiar with that particular game. This is definitely an amazing follow-up to that. Some of the key features that they put on the Steam page, so beautifully hand-drawn art and animation, the terrifyingly epic boss fights, they say, which is absolutely true. There are some huge boss fights in this game.
This is one of those games where you're moving the controller, hoping it'll help give you a little bit extra. A little more jump, a little quicker dive.
And like a Metroidvania, you go through a level and you pick up new abilities that help you traverse the level further. So early on, there's I think the first power-up you get is a shield, and then the second power-up you get is a double jump. Kind of annoyed me a little that a double jump was a power-up. Seems like a basic feature. But then that allows you to go to more of the map. You explore a map pretty thoroughly, and then after you've cleared it out, I believe there's added maps that you go to. So it's sort of like a handful of Metroidvanias in a sense. And the way the maps fill in, they fill in a roguelike sense. So even though the maps are mostly pre-created, the way they're filled in is roguelike. It's procedurally generated. That's the term I'm looking for.
So it's like a mix.
Right. There's also so much upgrading. The skill tree is gigantic.
It's a huge skill tree. It's going to be one of those games where if you really like it, you're going to play it over and over with different builds. And
apparently there's multiple endings, and they claim over 15 hours of gameplay, which I think is a totally solid amount of hours for this sort of game, for Metroidvania. The jumping and the movement are great. The melee was a little simplistic.
Right. Button smash.
Yeah, kind of button smashing, one button. Of course, there's going to be upgrades and powers and things like that, so it will get more complex. But still, right off the bat, pretty simplistic, and it doesn't reach the melee, particularly the melee, doesn't reach the complication of some other melee-driven games, but still very good. It feels very good to do. I liked fighting it. fighting creatures in the game. To get into some of the critiques I had, I love the game, but I want to give a few critiques. Once a game starts to feel like a Metroidvania to me, I can't help but do comparisons to Super Metroid, or especially Castlevania Symphony of the Night back on the PlayStation 1 and Saturn, I think. And one of the things that these games inevitably fail to do, that those older Metroidvanias were sure to do, is have not just a lot of areas, but very distinct looking and feeling areas where they're very differently thematic. This game, there are different themed areas, but they didn't seem dramatically different than each other. Also, a lot of those older Metroidvania games really had quite a few different enemy types. Whereas what roguelikes like to do, and as far as enemy types go, this is more like a roguelike. There's few enemy types that level up as you progress through the game. So you'll start with there seems to be about 4 or 5 basic enemy types you're going to run into a lot, but then they get beefier as you go, as you progress through it.
It's also one of those games where you come up to a boss and you go, holy crap.
Yeah, the bosses are quite diverse and huge. So much fun.
Just go, how am I supposed to deal with this?
Yeah. I think I'm just going to leave. Oh, the door's closed behind me. Crap.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Metacritic, 78 is their score.
Wow.
Do you think that's a fair score? Or?
That seems low.
I think it seems a little low, too.
Yeah, my biggest complaint is enemy types, but it wasn't awful. I would probably at least put this in the 8.5. Not sure if I would want it to go over 9, because I try to reserve the 9 to 10 space for the absolutely must-haves.
Yeah.
But I'd definitely be comfortable with giving this somewhere between an 8.5 and an 8.9.
Yeah.
78, I mean, that's a C+. That's not that great.
Yeah, this does not seem like a C+ game to me at all.
Yeah. I feel like what sometimes lowers the Metacritic scores is those review outlets that do out of 5 stars, and so 3 stars is a totally acceptable score. But then when you turn it into a 100-point level, it's a 66, which is nothing.
That makes sense.
That's why Metacritic has to be interpreted real carefully. I found one thing really annoying when I'm playing. Again, this is me comparing more to a Metroidvania, but I like when you're traversing an area for the creatures to be as if existing in the area, and you run into them as you go into a room. So you go into a room, and there's
that's where they live.
Right, that's where they live, and there might be 1, 2, or 20 of them, but they're gonna be there, and you can clear through them, and now you've cleared the room and you move on. They might respawn if you go back to that room, but that's okay. The way this game does it is it's more like a random encounter. So you still stay in the level. It's not like a JRPG where you go into a new kind of thing. But as you're passing through levels, something just triggers a bunch of enemies to kind of just collide on you, and they come in a big group.
Yeah.
And what was particularly annoying about that is that big group was not only in front of you and around you, but also back behind you where you just traversed and it was empty.
It almost starts to feel like a bullet hell.
But overall, I loved traversing. That's so important to these types of games that are Metroidvania-like. And I loved getting power-ups. I loved finding bosses. Will definitely play this game further, probably see it through to the end. 15 hours is very reasonable. That's something I don't like about roguelikes, is it's a small game that lasts 100 hours. It's I don't really need 100 hours of this.
Right. There's not enough to keep you interested for 100 hours in most little games like that.
Right.
So you think it's worth the price tag?
Yeah, well, we were talking about this, weren't we, Chris? That it seems like $19.99 is the new $9.99.
Yep. Inflation, man.
Yeah, it hits. It just drops. It's getting to a point where it's at a $20 base price, are we not starting to enter into the AAA realm of things? It's obviously a AAA game comes out at 40 to 60.
There, yeah.
But give it 3 months and it's more
or
like in the 30
or something.
Yeah. I feel like that. I feel like it's a bad thing for indies to raise their prices when AAA prices are remaining right where they're at.
Yeah.
Because eventually they're going to overlap, and then it'll be hard to justify the indie prices. And at $20 base, that's a little tough. But regardless of that, the fact is this game is $19.99 right now. And the way we usually review things is we'll either suggest people don't buy it because it sucks, or we'll say, it's worth a sale price, so wait for your Steam sale or whatever like that. This game, by the way, is also on PS4, not just Steam, I believe. And then, or we might say, buy it right now. Buy it at $19.99, full price. And if we really love the game, we'll say buy it at full price and go beyond. Buy the soundtrack, get the DLC, give some money to the developer, whatever. Go the extra mile. So, Chris, where do you land on this?
I'm kind of in between full price and sale.
Yes.
So, if it was full price at I think $14.99,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah. I think at $19.99, the only people who should be buying it are hardcore Metroidvania and roguelike fans. If you are just sort of into them, it's just something you do here and there, this is a sale price game, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely worth $9.99, probably worth $14.99 to try out. But at $19.99, I only suggest it to the true fans of the genre.
Yeah, I kind of feel like no matter how good you make a game like this, at the end of the day,
It's steep.
$20 is kind of a lot for Metroidvania.
Yeah.
For someone who's not totally into that.
Obviously, you're kind of paying for the hand drawing, right? That had to be
that must have taken quite some time.
Yeah, because it's beautiful and detailed.
Yeah.
And it scales, right, quite a bit. Because the main character is quite detailed, and then you scale out, to some of these really big creatures who are detailed at that level. That might just be the tricky of computers that I don't understand, but still. So, yes, I like the game. I totally suggest it. Honestly, it's a sale game for me, unless you're a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm going to concur
genre.
with you on that one.
Cool. Well, that's Sundered. Even though I couldn't give it like the. Honestly, it's the price, right? It's the price. If it had come out at $9.99, it'd be just a glowing buy it right now. With
the soundtrack.
Yeah, I probably would have said go the extra mile.
Yeah.
But at $19.99, I'm cheap. Well, hey, thanks for watching Game Club, and check out our next game, the Reviews with News. We at Game Club want to thank you for watching this video, and if you would, please like, subscribe right here, watch a couple extra videos, and keep playing games.